Welcome to the Vantage West Cybersecurity podcast, your front line for staying informed, alert, and one step ahead of today's digital threats.
Hi, my name is Jim Jenkins. I'm the VP of Information Security at Vantage West Credit Union. We're here with an ongoing series for Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and today we're going to be talking about phishing and social engineering with Jerry Keeley from CISA. Welcome, Jerry.
Thank you, Jim.
Can you provide just a bit of a background into your work here in the Tucson area for cybersecurity?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So my name is Jerry Keeley. I am a cybersecurity advisor for CISA. He mentioned that, and that's the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency of the Department of Homeland Security. That's a mouthful, so we'll use CISA. I worked with CISA for just under 2 years. Prior to that, I was the Chief Information Security Officer for Pinal County Government, retired after 17 years of service there. I've been in the Tucson community for over 35 years.
That's great. So building resilience into the Tucson area around cybersecurity, so critical nowadays with some of the challenges that we have with hackers and fraudsters. So thank you for the work that you're doing there. I want to kind of introduce the topic of social engineering and phishing as one of the tactics that are taken. Can you provide just a little bit of an idea of what social engineering is and then where phishing comes into play?
Okay, so phishing is a generic term for emails, mass email broadcast, and it's been around since the beginning of email. And phishing has an initial purpose of making sure or seeing if the email address is valid, if it's usable. It's looking for auto replies, it's looking for bounce backs, looking for information like that to realize if that email address is even good. And if they prove it's good, then they can sell it for more on the dark web for other people to use and leverage. Okay, that's really what phishing is about. Then enter social engineers. So these are experts on digging through people's social media, through any online presence that you may have, public record searches and things like that, and they dig in and find out more about a given person. They use that as their social engineering to now develop the next phase of that, which is called spear phishing, which means they know your name, they know something about you, they know your likes and dislikes, and they use that to develop a rapport with you to convince you that you need to be talking with these folks, that you should have some kind of relationship or communication. And so those are harder because just the phishing is usually generic, dear user, they don't really identify you, and you can kind of read through those a little bit. But the spear phishing gets a little bit harder because now they seem to have information about you. It might be, I'll give you a good example, one that's fairly successful is you get an email to your email address to you, and it says your credit card ending in XXXX, expiring on XX. Okay, they've gotten hold of that information through maybe a dark web breach or something like that, and you see that email that's supposedly from your bank, and it's to you, and it's got the last four of your credit card with an expiration date. That would be very easy to fall for, and then you click on that, they take you to a site that looks like your bank, and it collects your information and steals your identity.
Yeah, and it's tricking you all the way along, because they're using something that looks legitimate and then they're sending you to a site that looks legitimate, but all of that is really just to capture your user ID, your password, and then if you're not using some of the different tools and techniques like multi-factor authentication, which definitely want to recommend if you haven't looked at the multi-factor authentication video or podcast, we have that linked in the show notes below. So make sure that you have an opportunity to take a look at that, and that those are the sorts of things that can help protect you around this. So, what makes social? Well, let's take it to kind of that phishing. What makes it so effective for fraudsters and hackers? Are there specific things that we should be looking for? Give us a little bit of guidance on that.
Sure. So one statistic I'd like to share is when ChatGPT came out, which is basically
AI.
It's an AI generative.
Yeah.
That came out end of 2022. Since then, there has been over a 4,000% increase in these phishing emails, and that also plays into why it's even more difficult. So now, they're playing the numbers game, right? The more emails that you can get out to people, your odds will increase that somebody's going to fall for that. But if you have a tool like an AI behind there, now the cues we used to use, like grammatical errors, punctuation errors, things like that, because many of these criminals are English is not their first language, and so it fixes some of those language barrier things for them. So now our job has just become way harder in looking for some of those cues that we used to be able to see. Now those aren't there, so now we have to be even more astute to really reading what the email says, and really making sure that you use methods to ensure that it's for real, it's legitimate, because that flows into business email compromises, which is the second largest money loss in the country according to FBI statistics.
Okay,
and by people stealing an email address and using that, convinces them they go out to all their customers or whoever they work with, and then they look legit because they're using that email address, so they can use that to get you to fall for other fraud.
So you have multiple areas that you have to be paying attention to if you're still working and you have the potential for some sort of a phishing attack going on at work, but you also have home. And it might be a utility or your credit union or maybe even a healthcare type of site that you might get some sort of a phishing attack on. What are the things that we should do when we get that phishing email? Are there specific things that we should be taking a look at?
So you especially if it's an email that's asking you to do something, click on a link or go to a website or do anything, any action that's in there, that should make you pay extra attention. If it's just informational, there's no links and none of that, you can read it and get rid of it. I recommend, though, not just simply deleting it. Be a good citizen of the cyber community by reporting it as spam, because if enough of these get reported through your Googles and all these other email carriers, if enough of them are reported as spam, they'll actually block that sender from their system. So you're helping that next person that might not be as aware as you are. So it helps clean up that. It makes their job just a little bit harder. They have to go get a new email address and start over and all that other stuff. So that. But also, if there is any action on there, you want to, first of all, make sure that the email address it's coming from is legitimate. Now, they can be stolen, like I mentioned earlier, but that's the starting place. If you're getting an email from a person's name that you might recognize or even a bank's name, if you look at what the actual sender address is, and if it's some letters or something at gmail.com, you obviously should know that that is not your bank. That's not the institution you should be working with. So there's your initial flag. And then if there is a link in there somewhere, hovering over that link and making sure that you read what's behind it. It'll usually be in red or blue characters, and it'll say click here, check shipping info, check my credit card, whatever. Hover over that with your mouse and look at where it's going to go and make sure that it's actually going to a website that is legitimate.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to click on something that doesn't look legitimate.
Even if it is a bank and you suspect and all things check out, don't use the link. Still, just go ahead and go to your browser and click on your favorites and go that way. That also leads into, I said hover over it. Well, with our phones, that's a little more difficult. Some phones require a light press, some require a heavy press, and it will identify it. Well, if you push too hard or too light, you might accidentally execute that URL, that link in there. So the recommendation is, if you have any questions about it, wait till you can get to a computer to validate that email. And it goes further than just emails, though. I mean,
what are some of the different types of social engineering exploits? Different, should I just look at email or are there other areas?
Plenty of other places. Text. So it's called smishing, SMS-ishing. You get a lot. We see these texts and they have a link and say win one of 50 Echo Dots. Click here, fill out a survey, or there's your shipments being held up in customs. Click here to provide more information. A lot of these are real common. Many of you probably heard these or have these. That's one way of doing it, getting you to click on the link and fall for something, whatever that is, credential theft or even just downloading malware. Then also through social media. So you've got these DMs, direct messages that people put out, and if they've broken into one of your friends' emails or social media account, they're going to reach out to you and they're going to try to get you to click on a link within your social media. So you got to be very careful with those as well. And then Voice phishing. So we live in a day and time where if you don't recognize the caller or that the caller ID, you just don't answer the call because you let it go to voicemail. If it's important, they'll leave a message, because that's another way. If you answer, and they can usually, these engineers are very good at this, and they can manipulate you into saying things that you might think are benign or not very important. But if you get enough unimportant pieces of a puzzle and put them together, you can really engineer a person however you want. So, and now I'll kind of add to that, segue a little bit off back to our AI conversation, is that AI now has the ability to create videos and take your voice and make you say anything that they want you to. And they only need about 6 seconds of utterance of your voice. So even just talking to this person in a general conversation, but you don't give them out any information, they've got your voice. So now they can make you say anything they want. Now they can make your voice call a spouse, and it sounds like you, and it comes from your caller ID, and they think it's you, and they can manipulate them that way. And that has been happening more and more, and that is very scary.
So this podcast right now actually provided them with enough audio for them to actually fool our spouses?
Absolutely. And one thing that people don't think about, if you have a voicemail, it goes into voicemail, "Hi, this is Jerry Keeley." Usually your voicemail outgoing message is more than 6 seconds long. So they probably can get enough just by calling your phone and listening to your voicemail and go and recreate the utterance and make you really manipulate you and make you say anything. That was really how they, MGM Grand got taken down. Took them less than 10 minutes because they used the voice of an engineer, and called the help desk, who used the voice print knowing, hey, this is the person, I know who this is. And they went ahead and, but it wasn't him. They used his voice and they fooled the help desk person into believing it was them. They reset the password and they were immediately able to get into the system.
Okay. So we've talked about phishing, and we've talked about the smishing and other types of exploits. I guess the big question that folks will be wondering is, can we eliminate them? Can we just stop the possibility for attack? Is there, is there a way that I can add an application or do something that will just completely eliminate the possibility for that?
Move to an island in the middle of the Pacific. Don't use internet. Don't use anything. Okay. No, and frankly, there really is no. There's no silver bullet here, and the reason why it's getting worse and worse and worse, there's too much money in it. There are billions of dollars going into cybercrime. There's so much money made. They're highly motivated. They become very educated and very knowledgeable because they make really good money doing this kind of stuff. And you also have your nation states who fund people to come after the Western states to try to get into our world as well and help fund their military operations through these type of efforts. Okay. So there is no way of stopping it. The best tool that you have is your brain, right? Think before you click. You probably hear that, pretty often. But really that is true, is you are your best defense against any of these things, because everything can be hacked, everything can be manipulated in some way, shape, or form at some point. So, but as long as you can make sure that you realize that you are your own cyber defender, right? You are your cyber defense team for your family, for yourself, and if at work it's the same thing. But always pay attention to everything around you, everything that's going on, because there's a lot of different ways. The gas pump skimmers, right? We're of those where you go, they got a skimmer on the gas pump and they steal your credit card just by getting gas, right? So there's so many different things out there that can collect information about you. So the best you can do is pay good attention. Always be aware of your surroundings, and you're in the digital world. If you're online, if you're in your email, you got to pay extra attention to these things because, again, these engineers are experts. They do this for a living, and many people out there don't do cybersecurity for a living. So there's always new things coming out, and so you always have to try to be educated, but really just being aware.
Yeah, I think one of the examples that that we have seen is that of smishing. So the concept that I'm sitting with my phone, I get a text from my credit union. My credit union says there's a problem with my account. Click on this link. And the guidance that we provide on something like that is we never communicate those sorts of things via a text. And the action that people should take is, first, don't touch anything. Second is go for your credit union card and take a look on the back of the card, and there's an 800 number, for your financial institution. Use that number to validate calling your credit union, your bank, or healthcare organization, or whatever the text came in from, and talk to the people, talk to someone at the organization to validate this is actually something that I need to take action on, or it isn't, and that it is. The folks that you're working with in all of your different types of accounts will know immediately if they've contacted you or not. And if they say no, then of course, you've saved yourself a lot of headache from taking some sort of an action. So I think that those are really important. Now let's bring this back to the family and some of the things maybe that we might recommend to parents around these sorts of activities, because I know a lot of kids nowadays have phones, have tablets, maybe even devices from their schools that they might be getting emails or that sort of thing in. Are there any other types of guidance that we should be providing to parents to build that resilience around this sort of an exploit, a phishing, a vishing, a smishing, or whatever the variant is?
I guess really we'll have to be a little more cautious. We have to, not everything is as it seems, right? The old saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch. If you're getting something offered to you that you believe is good, something that you really want, you really need to step back for a moment, right? Mm-hmm. And look at that and really kind of, any communication that you get, but really this is not only just for kids, this is for the parents too, mm-hmm. and grandparents even, because, there are people in the elderly community that were not raised on this technology, mm-hmm. right? And so they're new to it, and it's great, and they can use it, but they don't necessarily know how to use it safely. So really making sure not only the word to the kids and to be more cautious on any form of communication you get. Mm-hmm. You always think it could be, it's not always as it seems, but also making sure you work with the grandparents and the parents out there as well, that, every phone call they get does not have to be answered, right? And making sure that they understand that they can be just as vulnerable and they'll fall for some of these things too. Yeah,
I think it's super important, regardless of your age, to build up that ability to either identify or know what steps to take. Things like, what you had mentioned, think before you click. Take a look at the content of the message that you get, wherever it's coming from, and don't take action. I think all of those are definitely spot on in building that overall cybersecurity awareness for organizations, for people, for kids, all of that. Jerry, are there any specific telltale signs, things that we should be looking for these types of exploits?
So the very biggest flag that we see, and you really need to look for, is if something comes with a sense of urgency or a panic term. You must do this now, act now. They want you to react. Mm-hmm. And that should be really, you should take the opposite approach. If you see something that is asking you to do something quickly, urgently, then that should be your flag that, no, we need to step back. We need to stop and think before we click and really understand, because generally there's really nothing that's emailed to you that has to be that urgent. Right? No business would use an email to communicate something that is absolutely urgent.
Right. Things like your account is going to be closed, or the amount of your purchase exceeds your credit limit. Fix this now, or something along those lines. Yeah, mm-hmm. That's great advice. So, Jerry, what are the things that businesses should take a look at? What are the top 3 things if you were advising either a small business or medium or even large size business here in the Tucson area? What are the things you'd recommend?
So the first one is multi-factor authentication, making sure that all of your apps and your external access is all managed by multi-factor. Secondarily, least privilege. So that's a process that's used quite often, or conversation quite often within the cyber world, is making sure that everybody's login only gives them access to what's absolutely needed. That way, if they have their credentials stolen through credential theft or something like that, then the criminals can't get to areas that they really shouldn't get to.
So those are two great options. What would be the final one?
Well, working with CISA, go to CISA.gov and contact your local advisor here in Tucson. That's me, cybersecurity advisor Jerry Keeley, and sign up for our free services. We have external vulnerability scans, so that way you know what the vulnerabilities are in a very real-time arena. It's absolutely free, quick to sign up. Every Monday you get notified of all the vulnerabilities that have been shown up in your environment, in all your external-facing IP devices. And then also work with your CISA advisors to do risk assessments. We do internal vulnerability assessments. We do cybersecurity training. We do tabletop exercises. Again, these are all available to you for free. It's simply a phone call away.
I really want to thank you for coming in and helping us kind of through that social engineering and phishing, smishing. I wish they could come up with maybe some better terms for those sorts of things, but cybersecurity people are a different breed at times.
Absolutely.
So, but thank you for coming in. I want to thank you for signing in and for watching this podcast. If we have any additional content, we'll put links in the show notes. But thank you for helping us as we go through Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And thank you again to CISA. And thanks for joining.
Bye.